Taiwan's government has proposed a record-high defense budget. Despite widespread destruction, there is an unexpected benefit to the heavy rainfall brought by Typhoon Gaemi. Fears of a wider conflict in the Middle East after Israel strikes Hezbollah targets in Lebanon. The UN is calling for maximum restraint. Plus, what's in a name? For Taiwanese fans at the Olympics, it's everything. A warm welcome to TaiwanPlus News. I'm Leslie Liao. Taiwan could boost military spending by 5% next year. Local news agency United Daily reports the government plans to spend a record high amount on defense. Rick Lowert has been following developments for us from the capital, Taipei. Rick, what does this number mean?
So the figure we're talking about is $19 billion on defense in 2025. As you mentioned, that's about 5% more than was spent this year, and it's going to amount to about between 2 and 2.5% of Taiwan's GDP. We should say that these are just local media reports. The cabinet has not officially put this proposal forward, and when they do, it will still need to be passed through the country's legislature before Taiwan can start spending that money. But what we do know is that Taiwan will most likely be spending this on its asymmetric war capabilities. Those are weapons that will allow it to defend itself. Things like anti-ship missiles, and I think they've also outlining some spending on long-range radar aircraft. And this is, of course, all going to counter that Chinese threat against Taiwan. Taiwan has said it's going to commit itself to bolstering its defenses, spending a lot of money as part of that, but it's also lengthened conscription for citizens, and it's also bolstering its local weapons manufacturing industry. But there are voices out there saying that Taiwan is not spending enough. Taiwan's main ally, the US, and also the provider of most of those weapons, wants Taiwan to be spending more than the 2% of its GDP on defense. And do you remember that the Republican nominee, Donald Trump, said that Taiwan should be footing a bill for the friendship it has with the US, which acts as that deterrence to China.
And as you mentioned, this proposal will have to pass the legislature before Taiwan can start spending. Now, how easy will that be?
Well, not that easy is the short answer. This is the first defense budget put forward by Eye Catching since he became president in May. And while he is continuing a very similar plan to his predecessor, Tsai Ing-wen, he is facing a very different political situation. While his ruling party, the Democratic Progressive Party, won the presidency in May, they lost control of the legislature, and opposition groups there have already taken control, and they've been putting through quite a lot of controversial bills that would curb some of the power of the executive branch. That's been causing violence in the legislature and protests on the streets. So there's a real concern that bills like this could be dead in the water because of that opposition in the legislature. This has happened in Taiwan before, in the early 2000s, when Taiwan also had a split government. And the ruling party is warning that if there is political action like this, Taiwan's national security could be at risk.
Thanks for breaking things down for us, Rick. That was Rick Lowert live for us in Taipei. Taiwan is still recovering from the aftermath of Typhoon Gaemi, with efforts focusing on fixing transportation links. The state-run Taiwan Railway says repairs on parts of the tracks in eastern Hualien County will be delayed due to heavy rain. And in the southern county of Jiayi, the Alishan Mountain Railway has suspended operations, with many parts of the tracks still buried under fallen trees and broken branches. Both lines are expected to be restored in August. Officials say Typhoon Gaemi broke records with 28 heavy rain warnings issued in 2 days last week. It left 10 people dead and displaced hundreds more. Typhoon Gaemi brought millions of US dollars in damage and flooding across Taiwan. But it has also helped fill the country's reservoirs, many of which now close to capacity. To learn more, Chris Gorin spoke with climatologist Xu Li of Academia Sinica.
What are some of the benefits that a typhoon can bring to Taiwan's water supply that people might not be aware of?
So first is increase the amount of water we can use as water resources that was stored in the reservoir. So I think it also sort of recharge the groundwaters. That's another sort of natural reservoir for available water resources. And if I wanted to add, maybe one more is it's a hydropower. So I guess we can read from Taipower's publication during the days of typhoon. There are two power generations that spikes high. One is like a wind power, and then the other is hydropower.
Is there a flip side to that? I mean, can a typhoon bring dangers to Taiwan's water supply?
The downside for typhoon is, of course, it caused a huge scale of flooding that we're seeing in the news report. But then I think also because of heavy rainfall, so it also generates very fast runoff. And these runoff are sources of erosions to the river channels. Erode some sediments, and those sediments would decrease the capacity. Says when you have a bucket, and the bottom of the bucket was filled up with sand, those sediments. Yeah, it makes the river channel shallow, or it makes the reservoir being shallower, so that the amount of water that can store in the future becomes smaller.
With the changing climate, are we seeing any changes to the frequency or intensity of typhoons here in Taiwan?
We have probably the same numbers of typhoon, but in terms of strength, it increased since 1980s. But then when we use the same tools that we use to do a climate simulation and trying to project it into the future, we see a decrease in terms of number of typhoon. That sounds counterintuitive. Decrease in terms of number, but then increase in terms of strength and increase in precipitations.
That was climatologist Xu Li of Academia Sinica. Authorities in the Philippines are racing to contain an oil spill near Manila Bay. The leak comes from a tanker that sank last Thursday due to severe weather. It was carrying around 1.4 million liters of industrial fuel. Monsoon rains strengthened by Typhoon Gaemi have delayed the Coast Guard's efforts to clean up the oil. If not contained, it could be the worst oil spill in Philippine history. Greenpeace and other environmental groups are calling on President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. to make oil and gas companies pay for damage to the country's waters. At least 9 people have been killed in floods engulfing cities across China. More than 3,000 people were evacuated from their homes after Typhoon Gaemi brought heavy rain to the central province of Hunan. Meanwhile, rail lines have been disrupted in northeastern China after flash floods triggered landslides. State media also reports that more than 300,000 people in Fujian province have been relocated to safer areas. North Korean state media says at least 5,000 people have been rescued in the country after they were stranded in flooding over the weekend. They say the military evacuated residents via helicopter and boat. Photos released by state media show leader Kim Jong-un inspecting the flooded areas by car and reportedly directing the rescue efforts. He also reportedly issued food aid and necessities to residents. The U.S. has announced a significant upgrade to its 70-year-old military alliance with Japan. Under the new agreement, the U.S.'s military's command post in Japan will be revamped as a joint forces headquarters led by a 3-star general. It will report to the head of U.S. Indo-Pacific Command in Hawaii. U.S. Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin made the announcement with his Japanese counterpart in Tokyo. U.S. and Japanese officials say the upgrade is meant to address the deteriorating security situation in East Asia. They cited threats coming from North Korea and China and their growing relationship with Russia.
中国の対外的な姿勢、また軍事動向等が地域及び国際社会全体にとりまして深刻な懸念であると、こうした認識で一致をしたところであります。またロシアと中国とのさらなる戦略的軍事協力に対します懸念も共有をいたしました。
Taiwanese sports fans are excited by what they see as an Olympic victory, but it's not in any of the athletic events. John Van Trieste has more.
On the sidelines of the Paris Olympics, words that could have caused trouble if they'd been spoken at any of the official venues. Under a 1981 agreement, Taiwan's national team is barred from using the national flag or anthem at the Games, and they must compete under the name Chinese Taipei. China says Taiwan is its rightful territory and does not tolerate anything, even a name, that could imply otherwise. But for the second Summer Games in a row, a local anchor in the host city has explained to viewers watching the opening ceremony that Chinese Taipei is Taiwan. At first, Taiwanese sports fans in Paris couldn't believe it.
我就听到台湾，然后我就很开心，然后我想说会不会听错，我就倒回去重新看了一次，这个真的是台湾，我也分享给我在台湾的朋友，然后我们都很开心。
Athletes themselves are wary about weighing in. Just bringing a Taiwan flag to an international sporting event can be grounds for disqualification, as Taiwan's first ever Olympic gold medalist explains.
那当我们如果放弃了名称或者是更换名称，他们就有机会就觉得你违规了，这个我觉得是一个非常大的风险。那如果我们真的被抵制了，我们如果真的不能参加了，那我们这些选手怎么办？
But to some fans, even a nod of recognition on an Olympic feed is welcome. And Taiwanese officials in Paris for the Olympics say they look forward to more international sporting fans getting to know Taiwan through the Games.
第一个感觉是蛮温暖的，因为虽然我们因为奥会的规定，参加奥运的时候必须使用所谓 Chinese Taipei 这个名称，但是对于所有的人来说，对这个世界来说都很熟悉，其实就是台湾。所以当大会叫出我们真正的名字的时候，其实我们大家都尖叫、欢声雷动，觉得希望大家就是以台湾来认识我们。
With a 60-strong team of athletes in Paris, there's hope this will happen soon. Ethan Chen and John Van Trieste for TaiwanPlus.
In more Olympic news, Taiwan's top badminton player Zhou Tiancheng has claimed his first victory at the Paris Olympics. Zhou faced Mexico's Lino Munoz in his first match of the men's singles, winning 21-17. He's set to face Hong Kong's Lee Chuk-yi on Wednesday. The men's archery team also beat Great Britain to move into the quarterfinals. They will face China next. Meanwhile, Taiwan's women's archery team was eliminated in the quarterfinals, losing 2-6 to South Korea. In table tennis, Taiwan lost to China in the mixed doubles event, losing their chance to compete in the quarterfinals. Coming up, we sit down with a circus troupe that's catching the eye in Paris. Stay tuned.
This month's top hits on TaiwanPlus.
Let's go. Let's go to Chinese Taipei. Where is it?
Why is Taiwan called Chinese Taipei in international sports? Dive into the complex origins with athletes and experts.
People feel like we are Taiwanese.
It's the music that tells you to be yourself.
Taiwan's indie music scene is calling to you. Time to take Taiwan's musicians to the world.
Delicious plant-based dining in Taiwan.
An elevating vegetarian experience. Join Aggie Xie on Veggie Island to savor Taiwan's diverse dishes.
Hi, I'm Kevin. Welcome to Whirlwind Trip.
Hop on Whirlwind Trip to discover all the fun Taiwan has to offer around the clock.
An exhilarating journey full of culture, discovery, and unforgettable moments.
Vibrant and original programs, exclusively on TaiwanPlus.
Welcome back. You're watching TaiwanPlus News. Venezuelan migrants have gathered outside their embassies abroad to protest. They're accusing the government of fraud after President Nicolas Maduro was announced as the winner of the presidential election. Venezuela's election authority, which is controlled by Maduro's party, says he defeated challenger Edmundo Gonzalez with 51% of the vote. But the results have been rejected by the opposition party, which says it won 70% of the votes. Global leaders have raised concerns over the results and called for transparency in the vote count. Maduro's party has been in power for the past 25 years, but has dramatically dropped in popularity. 7 missing Bangladeshi student leaders have surfaced to declare an end to anti-government protests in which more than 200 people have died. A video released Sunday shows the movement's leaders in police custody saying that their original demands have been met. This prompted a student group to say they believe the leaders were coerced. They are calling for a national strike. The protests began in July over a job quota system and escalated into broader anti-government demonstrations. The government's response has led to at least 204 deaths and thousands of arrests. Italy's Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni has vowed to relaunch relations with China and has signed a 3-year economic action plan. The deal was announced after talks with Chinese Premier Li Qiang and comes just over a year after Italy pulled out of China's Belt and Road Initiative. It focuses on renewable energy and electric vehicles, which are at the center of a brewing trade war between China and the EU, of which Italy is a member. Meloni is on a 5-day visit to China. While most eyes are on the athletes competing in Paris, it could be Taiwan's top-performing artists that teach the world the most about the country. Our reporter Sandy Chi spoke to Mei Ziling, the director of a circus troupe that's making waves at this year's Cultural Olympiad.
So can you tell me, what is it like to perform at the Paris Cultural Olympiad?
当我踏进台湾馆的展演会场的时候，我觉得完全可以感觉到台湾人跟台湾的活力跟活泼，然后在整个台湾馆里面流动跟绽放。目前的观众跟幕后的工作人员，每一个人都面带笑容，所有人的凝聚力跟目标都是同一个，就是要为整个选手、整个台湾的选手或者全世界的选手在加油打气。
And while you were performing there, what kind of feeling did you get? What was the atmosphere like with all the people around you?
第一天我们的环境其实蛮恶劣的，是因为刚好那天巴黎下大雨，又非常的冷。目前的观众，大家是撑着雨伞看，然后但非常多人，我没有料到下这么大的雨，台下的观众还迟迟的继续的支持着台上的表演者，我就觉得这就是台湾人。台湾人真的有一种非常强大、很坚韧的精神。然后我在同样是同台演出的其他表演团体身上看到这样的浓烈，跟观众身上看到这样浓烈的一个情感，在我们周遭的流动的时候，我是觉得很有一种我是台湾人，我也要站在这个土地，让世界看见台湾的感觉。
That was Mei Ziling, director of the Eye Catching Circus, speaking from Paris. One of Taiwan's most decorated chefs has suddenly announced he's closing his flagship restaurant. Instead, he's going to focus on fostering the next generation of fine dining professionals.
And today, I announce my retirement from the front line of restaurants.
A sudden end. Taiwanese Michelin-starred chef Andre Chiang announces that he's hanging up his knives and taking a different approach to food and beverage. Chiang is one of Taiwan's most decorated, internationally acclaimed culinary artists. He's been named one of the most influential chefs in the world. His restaurants have won multiple Michelin star awards. Two-starred restaurant Andre in Singapore was named the best eatery in the country by Restaurant Magazine before it shut down in 2018. The magazine also ranked Chiang's Michelin 2-star flagship establishment in Taipei, Raw, as the best restaurant in the entire country. Chiang's accomplishments have made him a celebrity in Taiwan and a leading figure in the restaurant industry. He now wants to channel his decades of skill and experience into teaching the next generation of culinary artists. Andre says Raw will stop operating as a restaurant at the end of this year. After that, it will be turned into a culinary academy capable of turning out Michelin star-level chefs.
Raw will evolve into a culinary center for nurturing and training young Asian chefs. a culinary academy that can produce 10 to 20 Michelin quality chefs every year.
Chiang's sudden announcement comes as a shock to Taiwan's food and beverage scene. This isn't the first time Chef Chiang has shuttered one of his establishments, but it is the first time he's announced such a major career move and change of direction. The star chef is stepping aside to give others the opportunity to shine. Howard Chung and Leslie Liao for TaiwanPlus. Foreign ministers from Quad member countries are meeting in Tokyo to discuss common security concerns. The officials from the US, Japan, Australia, and India are expected to focus on cooperation in areas like maritime and cybersecurity. The talks follow meetings between Tokyo and Washington on Sunday, where the allies labeled China as the biggest strategic challenge facing the region. For the first time ever in Taiwan, a Formosan flying fox pup has been rescued. Sandy Chi went to the facility where the bat is kept to see how the animal is doing.
Looking happy and healthy, this bat is a Formosan flying fox pup. A local volunteer rescued the pup in Hualien a few months ago and sent it to the Wild One Wildlife Conservation Association, the only non-profit animal rescue center in eastern Taiwan. This is the first time such a young bat, just 2 weeks old, has been rescued in Taiwan.
我刚好就寻到有一只肉丹的胡服宝宝在那边，然后他们其实已经很努力的尝试寻亲了2天晚上，然后妈妈2天都没有回来。如果再把它放回去，它就是等于等死而已。所以我们只能必须把它接手。
Since this was their first rescue case of this kind, the center reached out to local and Japanese experts with experience dealing with this vulnerable species of fruit bats.
这20年来，我们在龟山岛跟花莲市开始发现稳定而且数量在增加的族群。我们推测那边的族群有可能是从日本那边扩迁过来的，因为日本那边的族群也在扩迁当中。
The Formosan flying fox is a subspecies of the Ryukyu flying fox, the largest bat native to Taiwan. It's considered to be endangered. Before 1970, there were over 2,000 of them in eastern Taiwan, but their numbers dropped drastically due to overhunting. Today, there could be as few as 200 in the country.
那段时间其实有一股风气，就是去饲养或者说去吃一些珍奇异兽。那胡服它的外形非常的特别，它的脸长得像狐狸、像狗，然后它又会飞，它张开翅膀1公尺大。所以对一般人来讲，它是一个非常不一样的一个动物。
Staff say the rescued pup is growing healthily. Now it weighs 230 grams, almost 3 times as when it was first found.
它现在牙齿已经换牙完了，所以它牙齿现在很利，所以它现在已经茁壮中了。
Taking care of a megabat is not easy, as humans can never replace its mother.
胡服它在出生之后一直都有妈妈24小时的抱着。好，那妈妈可以提供它最适合它的母乳。好，那这其实都是我们在人工照养上很难取代的。
To provide the best care for the pup, the vets and other staff diligently monitor its condition. They feed it carefully twice a day and manage its enclosure.
这边可以做到的就是它断奶、它离乳，然后它愿意开始飞行。那接下来它就会移到花莲分署那边更大的空间去做飞行的训练。让他们去确定，或者是跟我们这边会同，我们一起去确认说他在野外生存的能力足不足够了。如果足够了，就有机会回去了。对，但可能还要好一段时间。
Now that they've had some experience with the pup, the staff say they've learned new things about the species.
甚至胡服一开始被认为是没有乳齿的，台湾这边的哦。但后来我们其实一收到的时候就发现，它有啊，怎么会没有呢？因为我们现在台湾的胡服研究也是慢慢在累积中，所以对研究员对我们来说，这只个体真的很重要。原因就是因为它是所有数据的开始。
The census staff admit they can't know exactly the best way to care for a Formosan flying fox pup, as it's never been attempted before. But they're determined to keep giving it their best shot and gather as much information as they can while they do. They hope what they find out will someday help see the Formosan flying fox taken off the endangered species list. Alex Chen and Sandy Chi for TaiwanPlus.
An art center for students with disabilities in Taichung is offering both new skills and new friends to those who participate. Chris Gorin tells us more.
Here at this art center in central Taiwan, students with disabilities are learning to express themselves through art. The center offers classes in areas like gardening and painting, creating opportunities for social and creative interactions.
障碍者不是只有这些工作而已，他们有其他的选择。这些孩子是他们喜欢画画，喜欢艺术方面的，喜欢陶艺。那我们是不是有机会像一般的一样？我喜欢写什么东西的时候，我可以进到那个地方去写。那我们这个平台就是让他们能够适应下来，然后慢慢来，慢慢来这样子。
Parents say the social element of the classes is as beneficial as the art itself.
最的改变，它是群聚的生活，对不对？让他有群聚的生活，那这边老师也蛮会照顾的，然后再来呢，他在跟同学学习之中，能够学到更多的东西。
The center not only teaches students how to create art, but also how to sell it, giving members of the public a chance to buy the pieces and support the students.
参与市集等于是他们卖了一些他们自己的东西嘛，他们可以赚一点小钱这样子。有成就感。这个市集对他们来讲是非常有成就感。那我们看的，我们家长也都非常欣慰嘛。
Centers like this one give students with disabilities the chance to overcome their creative challenges. But in the process, they can also make friends and maybe even a little cash. Joseph Wu and Chris Gorin for TaiwanPlus.
And thank you for watching TaiwanPlus News. I'm Leslie Liao. Take care and see you next time.